This is Joyce Polito Crane. I'm the news director at WestfordCAT. I'm here today with Emily Gilstrap, and she is a co-organizer of an upcoming rally on Sunday, June 14th at 3 p.m. on the town common. It's for Black Lives Matter, and Emily has a lot to say about this topic. How are you, Emily, and what are you looking to have happen on Sunday?
Thank you. So on Sunday, we're going to be hearing, we're aiming to hear voices of color tell us about their experiences within the community. Our goal is to have those voices inform our understanding of how we can improve and fuel certain action items that we're working on in the community. So for example, Anita Tokukarn Nguyen is organizing a community forum with the Westford Police Department. It's going to be a conversation looking over their policies, and the community can ask questions and see how they can make sure to address basically equal administration of justice.
Will that be a virtual meeting?
That's right. That'll be an online meeting July 7th at 7 p.m. And we'll be handing out flyers at the event at the rally on Sunday with that information. So anybody who attends will have that information as well. So that's our goal. We're also going to be looking at what we can do in the schools and every institution in our community. What could you do at the schools? I have been hearing some really bright ideas from some young Westford graduates who are people of color. And so the credit for these ideas definitely goes to them. And what I've been hearing from them is, how about an African American Studies capstone course? How about we make sure that every bookshelf is populated with books featuring people of color and indigenous people? And just really making sure about that. Of course, there's also making sure we have a diverse staff, faculty and staff. So those are some things we should definitely work on. And hearing from those young people, hearing about their experiences growing up in Westford, it's very clear that we have work to do there. So we need to address that. And that's really important to me. And I'll definitely be looking at that going forward from this rally.
Let's talk about racism and the incident that seems to have sparked this George Floyd's death. What are you seeing on the bigger picture, on this national level?
So much to unpack here. Starting with George Floyd, that video was devastating. It was monstrous. It was inhuman. And George Floyd cried out for his mama while 3 other police officers who are there to supposedly serve and protect stood by and watched that man casually kneeling on his neck.
I honestly think every mother in America melted at that moment when they heard, when they watched that video and heard that cry for help.
No mother should fear for her child's life due to their skin color. And the fact that I don't have to have that conversation with my son, I don't want anyone else to have that conversation with their son or daughter about, how to go out in the world, how to interact with police, how to avoid looking suspicious. That should not be.
I see so much emotion in you.
Yeah, I am. That's why I'm passionate about this. So you asked about the broader picture. So George Floyd is just one of really almost countless Black lives that have been lost to systemic racism. So this is really a broader issue. This is not a few bad apples. This is a tree that came from a seed.
Mhm.
Now, I kind of want to do a little history discussion here because I think this is important to understand systemic racism. Obviously, slavery is a big part of the founding of our nation. So this goes back to the beginning. But we were founded on an ideal. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. And the civil rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement are fueled by that patriotic belief that that applies to them too.
Mhm.
Now, let's fast forward. I want to talk about socioeconomic oppression. In the New Deal, FDR's New Deal, it built the middle class, but we were still segregated at that time, and Black people and other people of color were excluded from that growth of the middle class, and their housing was segregated. Now that's important because that you can still see that today, and education is funded by property taxes that are based on housing values, and therefore the education you receive is based on your home value, the quality of that education. And that creates a cyclical, generational system of oppression. And when you add that to mass incarceration and other aspects about police brutality, you have this, that's what brought us here today. And that's what has sparked these protests all over the country and even across the world.
Yeah, the prisons were built to be occupied, and unfortunately, they are largely with Black American men.
And frankly, there's no surprise there. The 13th Amendment, the Emancipation Proclamation said you cannot hold a slave unless they've committed a crime. And so that left this wonderful, this terrible little loophole that allowed, let's chuck them in jail for some little frivolous crime, and then they can work in jail for free.
Mm-hmm. That part of that was the war on drugs, and
Right.
how disproportionately it was, was aimed at men of color.
That's right. And that comes right back into that socioeconomic oppression because, why would you join a gang or sell drugs if you are doing fine economically? Right?
Right.
The only reason there's crime in neighborhoods is because of poverty. If you compare poor white neighborhoods to poor Black neighborhoods, you're going to see the same amount of crime.
Right.
Studies do show that.
Yeah. Yes, there's, as you say, a systemic issue in this country. This country was built on the backs of the slaves that we brought over from Africa, and possibly other areas as well. And here we are today. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to say one last thing before we close. What would you like to say to the residents of Westford?
I hope you come to the rally on Sunday. I hope that if you are a person of color, you feel welcomed and comfortable to speak about your experiences. We need to address racism in every facet of our community and our institutions. We need your voice to inform that. I'm with you. I stand with you. I may not understand, but I will always stand with you.
Beautiful. For WestfordCAT News, this is Joyce Polino Crane.